The book of Ecclesiastes vividly presents the vanity of living life apart from God. Although life can be a perplexing riddle, God is still in control and He knows the answers. And in the midst of the confusion and chaos, we can enjoy God and His many blessings. We are Christ the King Church.
Well, good morning, everybody. Here we are in week 2 of Ecclesiastes. I'm glad you came back after last week. Anybody leave depressed last week? No, good. Hopefully nobody went and had an existential crisis or anything like that, feeling like life is meaningless or whatever. I'm glad you're here. And I tell you what I did last week after I left. I was thinking, after a kind of a heavy topic and so forth, I was like, I'm just going to go home and cheer myself up by, what do? Let's watch, how about the Bengals? Let's watch some football, And I was just thinking, this is like my sermon on repeat, It's this endless cycle of futility. I'm like, red zone, interception, red zone, interception, red zone, fumble. I'm just watching this thinking like it's vanity. It's just nothing new under the sun. It's all meaningless. But then, as I watched the game a little bit more, it all sort of came to me, and I'm like, this is just a striving after win. This really is vanity. And so the Bengals, they are the most biblical team in the NFL. And so I was really encouraged by that. And so Thursday, futility, it's vanity. Well, have no fear because, soccer, for one. There's something. The Reds, the Bengals, not so much. But yeah, soccer, that's going well. Anyway, have no fear because Solomon, as we saw last week, he beat us up to build us up. And today we're going to look at pleasure. We'll look at what it means to really have happiness and pleasure and joy and where to find it. So let's recap a bit. Ecclesiastes chapter 1, that's what we covered last week. Solomon, who is the preacher, that's how he identifies himself, he gave us this news that living life apart from God is vanity, is futility. So vanity is this word that's used over and over in the book of Ecclesiastes, and it means smoke. It means literally like you try to grab it. It's something that's real, but when you try to grab it, it slips through your fingers and it doesn't last. So our brief existence, the point of view under the sun, apart from God, our brief existence here is just a tiny blip in time. So apart from God, we are nothing more than cosmic accidents. We're the byproducts of a mindless, meaningless process of evolution. That's the point of view that is apart from God. And if that's the way a person lives their life, then they really have no anchor. There isn't anything eternal to anchor our temporal lives to. Nothing that we can attach ourselves to that is eternal. It's just like, we appear for a while and then we die and that's it. That's the point of view apart from God. And that's, the preacher says 34 times in the book, that's vanity. It's meaningless. It's something that eludes our grasp. So what we're going to see today is that life is not futility. In fact, there is a way to experience happiness. There's a way that we can have pleasure and purpose in God. And so if you want to find true and lasting happiness, you have to go to the one who invented it. You have to go to the source. God is the author of life. He is the inventor of pleasure and happiness. He's the one that provides it for us. And Solomon had to learn all of this firsthand because he rode the pleasure train until it ran out of track. And chapter 2 is the story of his adventure, and it left him empty. So let's dig in, okay? Ecclesiastes chapter 2 in your Bible. If you have a paper Bible, old school, go right into the middle. If you hit Psalms, take a right. Proverbs, Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes chapter 2. We're going to get through this whole chapter this morning. Verse 1. I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself. But behold, this also was vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of pleasure, what use is it? I searched with my heart how to cheer my body with wine, my heart still guiding me with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was good for the children of man to do under heaven during the few days of their life. I made great works. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. I made myself gardens and parks, and planted in them all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself pools from which to water the forest of growing trees. I bought male and female slaves and had slaves who were born in my house. I also had great possessions of herds and flocks, more than any who had been born before me in Jerusalem. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the treasure of kings and provinces. I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines, the delight of the children of man. Let's stop here. All right, who does this? Who sets out on a scientific experiment and says, "Come now, heart, I will test you with pleasure and see how much you can take. How much pleasure and enjoyment can I pump my heart with and fill myself up with until I've said, oh, I've had it all. I've experienced it all. I've enjoyed it all. I am now full. I am now satisfied. There's no need for any more pleasure." That's what he said. He's going to set off in this experiment and see how much can I take. And you got to remember who this guy is. I mean, he is the richest, smartest, most powerful man of the ancient world. And if you don't believe me, you can read it in the book of 1 Kings, chapters 4 through 11. It gives us this anthology of all of the things that we're going to summarize here in just a minute. But this is all true of him. And so, first stop on the pleasure train is the party scene. And this guy just drank himself silly night after night, trying to determine, is there some experience of drinking and drunkenness and partying and feasting and eating that will give me some satisfaction that lasts? And so he's like able to, did this so much, like, okay, what's a beer hangover versus a wine hangover versus a whiskey hangover? Is one better than the other? Is there some combination of things I can drink that would not produce that? What do I do? How do I recover? But it's like he's testing himself with pleasure. How much can you take? And then second stop is, okay, I'm going to design and build this garden pleasure paradise. And that's what he did. I mean, he planted a forest full of trees, fruit trees and so on, to where he could walk around in his little pleasure forest and pluck fruit off of the tree and enjoy like the reflecting pools and streams that are running through this vast thing that he had planted. Third stop, entertainment and luxury. So he's got, he didn't do any of the work himself. He had the slaves do all the work. And even his slaves had slaves. He had slaves born to slaves born in his house. So he had other people that's doing all this work for him. So he had men and women waiting on him hand and foot, night and day, making sure that he never had to experience the slightest moment of boredom. People that can entertain him. Come sing for me. Come tell me a joke. Come do some skit, act something out, whatever. It's like they came and they did whatever he wanted to entertain him. That was his experience. And then, last stop, night after night, he went to bed with a prom queen. And he could just pick out whatever supermodel that he wanted. It probably had to have a staff just to keep track of everybody. It's like we got, black hair, blonde hair, brunette, blue eyes, brown eyes, and he can just kind of go through, that one, your turn tonight, let's go. I mean, that's what he did. I mean, none of them could say no to him. I mean, this is the king. You're not going to say no to him. And so, I mean, it tells us in the book of 1 Kings, he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. So, okay, hang on. Let's calculate for a second. That's 1,000 women that he had. Most people don't have that many friends on Facebook. I mean, how do you keep track of all the names? I can't tell you 1,000 people's names, let alone the anniversaries. This dude would have had 83 anniversaries every month. That's more than 2 per day that he had to keep track of. And get this, like, with every woman that he would have a one-night stand with, I mean, it kind of cheated the rules. It's like, well, to make this a legal, union. Let's just call it marriage. So yeah, you do, I do, whatever, we all do. Come into my chamber and then put her in the back with all the rest, give her a house, give her an allowance. She's a wife. Come on. That's not a real marriage, but he had the money to do that. And nobody's ever going to tell him no. I mean, not to mention child support. I mean, how many kids would have been running around Jerusalem like, that kid looks just like the king? And that kid looks just like the king. That kid, they all look just like Solomon. And then you imagine you've got all the men that would have lived there that would have never had the opportunity for a wife or for a family because Solomon had hoarded all the inventory. There's no women available. Solomon's got them all. And that's what he did. Come now, test my heart with pleasure. And that's what he did. Nothing would hold him back. So this is his little experiment, this first little part of his experiment. What does he say about it? Verse 9. So I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. Meaning that he wasn't just mindlessly going about this stuff. I mean, he was analyzing and thinking, trying to test himself. All right? Verse 10. And whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil. All right, so he didn't hold anything back. If he thought it, if he dreamt it, if he desired it, he did it. Everything. Verse 11, then I considered. All right, then I considered. That means like, okay, at the end of the night, party's over, everybody's gone home, the music's off, and he's alone with his thoughts. Then I considered all that my hands had done and the toil that I had expended in doing it, and behold, all was vanity, a striving after wind, chasing my tail, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun. So if you'll recall from last week, the word gain means like a lasting profit. You know, what's the increase? So if he's pursuing pleasure, what's the increase of pleasure? What is the overall satisfaction in life, the overall increase as a result of pursuing all this pleasure? Try to grab it, it eludes him. It doesn't last. Nothing worked. I mean, I'm sure he had a good time in the moment. Yeah, I'm sure he probably had a lot of fun doing the things he did. But once it's over, then I considered and I reflected back on all that I had done, and I'm empty. It's left me empty, and that's the final evaluation. Okay, well, he's not giving up that easily. He's going to keep trying. Verse 12. So I turned to consider wisdom and madness and folly, meaning I'm going after an education. I want to fill my mind full of knowledge and training. For what can the man do who comes after the king? Only what has already been done. Then I saw that there is more gain in wisdom than in folly, as there is more gain in light than in darkness. The wise person has eyes in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. And yet I perceive that the same event happens to all of them. Then I said in my heart, what happens to the fool will happen to me also. Why then have I been so very wise? And I said in my heart that this also is vanity. For of the wise as of the fool there is no enduring remembrance. Seeing that in the days to come all will have long been forgotten. How the wise dies just like the fool. So I hated life, because what is done under the sun was grievous to me, for all is vanity and a striving after wind. He's saying getting an education is good. It's better to be smart than stupid. I mean, nobody wants to be dumb. So, yeah, train my mind. He said that's a good thing. It's better to walk in light than in darkness. But at the end, what gain do I have? What's the lasting benefit of all of this education? So let's say he just trained his mind for years and years and years. He gets, a diploma and then a degree and then a master's and then a PhD and lots of training and experience. And he's published and he's experienced and learned all this stuff. And he's got this head full of so much information. And let's say he wants to pass it down. So I'm going to take all that I've learned and I'm going to put it all in books and I'm going to write it all down as best as I can, put it all out there. One day I'm going to die. And somebody else is going to have to read all of those books and learn all that and have all that experience just to catch up with my genius mind. And then will there be any lasting increase? Or is it just going to be, well, when they die, the knowledge will die with them? There isn't any enduring remembrance. You walk through the cemetery, you got the grave of an idiot next to the grave of a genius. They're both dead, and all that they knew and experienced is gone. It died with them. Death is the great equalizer. All right, verse 18. Let's focus on my career then. Let's see what I can accomplish. Verse 18, I hated all my toil in which I toil under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to the man who will come after me. And who knows whether he will be wise or a fool? Yet he will be the master of all for which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. This also is vanity. So I turned about and gave up my heart to despair over all the toil of my labors under the sun, because sometimes a person who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave everything to be enjoyed by someone who did not toil for it. This also is vanity and a great evil. What has a man from all the toil and striving of heart with which he toils beneath the sun? For all his days are full of sorrow, and his work is a vexation. Even in the night, his heart does not rest. This also is vanity. So Solomon had devoted his entire life to building this empire, to leaving a legacy of, he spent 7 years building the temple of God in Jerusalem. He spent 14 years building his palace, his personal residence. It kind of shows you where his priorities are. And then he built these gardens and forests and these wonderful things, this beauty. And he's like, I know someday I'm going to die and it's going to be left to somebody else. He had every resource at his disposal. With the mind of a genius, with a brain filled with knowledge and understanding, he realized that none of these enjoyments brought any lasting satisfaction. I'm still empty, and I'm going to die someday. And as for all my money, my stupid kids are going to inherit all my cash, and they're going to buy a fleet of diamond-studded, gold-plated Mercedes that they'll drink and drive and crash. They're going to waste it all. They're going to tear this thing apart. And if you keep reading in the book of 1 Kings, that's exactly what happens. He's got stupid kids that kill each other trying to get power. And then finally, one guy gets power and he destroys the empire, splits it in half. There's civil war. That's his own kids. He's like, I've built all of this success. I've devoted my mind to doing so much with skill and labor and attentiveness. And the people that come after me, I'm dead. I can't control what happens after me. Somebody else is going to take it and they're going to ruin it. And that is exactly what happened. I've experienced more, enjoyed more, indulged more, learned more, accomplished more than anybody could ever dream of. And yet I can't even get a good night's sleep. Even at night, my heart does not rest. Because I'm worried about keeping track. And more money, more problems. That's ancient. That's 3,000 years old. He's got more stuff. That means he's got more stuff to attend to, more stuff to protect, more stuff to manage. So all the good times, the parties, the women, the money, the success is all just one big diversion from the emptiness that is still there in his heart. So let me ask you this. I want to ask you to reflect on something, and you may not want to, but I'll ask you anyway. What do you think right now What do you think it will take to make you happy? We've all got a list. We've all got some things that we might be able to tally off and say, well, if I had this or that, this circumstance, this relationship, this possession, this house, this job, this promotion, this degree, this dollar amount, whatever it is, there's something that you're chasing, and you chase it because you think it's what will make you happy. So it's on your list. If I could grant you one wish, like whatever wish, I'll give you one wish, whatever you want. I'm a genie, right? I can give you whatever you want. What is that one wish? And I guarantee you that whatever it is that you wish for it because you think that that thing will make you happy. What if I could offer you unlimited money, a genius mind, the power to control your life and your circumstances, a personal staff to attend to all of your desires, and no member of the opposite sex would ever turn you down? Now, some people think, I've been looking my whole life for that. That's exactly what I'm after. And Solomon had every single bit of that and more. And he indulged it to the full extent of his ability. He scientifically studied it. I would test myself with pleasure and see how much can I fill myself up with. And so he did all of that. And he says, behold, it is all vanity, a striving after wind, and there is nothing to be gained under the sun. None of it lasted. None of it lasted. So what does he conclude? Verse 24, there's nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. So enjoy things. It's not a bad thing. It's okay to enjoy stuff. This also I saw is from the hand of God. So enjoy it and recognize who gave it to you. It's good to enjoy things, and it's good to recognize that the enjoyment that you have was given to you from God. Verse 25, here's the other side. For apart from him, who can eat or have enjoyment? For the one who pleases him, for to the one who pleases him, God has given wisdom and knowledge and joy, but to the sinner he has given the business of gathering and collecting only to give to the one who pleases God. This also is vanity and a striving after wind. I saw some research that said that 84% of Americans believe that enjoying yourself is the highest goal in life. 84%. Enjoying yourself is the highest goal in life. Now, after all we've just been talking about, what do you think of that? I'll tell you what I think. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. It's not wrong to enjoy yourself. It's about where does the enjoyment come from. That's the issue. Westminster Confession of Faith, the first question in the Catechism. What is the chief end of man? Number one question. What are we made for? The answer? The chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. So we were made for enjoyment. The chief end of human beings is to glorify God and to enjoy God forever. Now that goes very contrary to what a lot of people think God is about. A lot of people think God is anti-pleasure, right? They think God's a killjoy. God's looking around all the time. Who's having fun? There's one. Get him! Just bam! God just hates fun. Killjoy. He doesn't like fun at all. He hates drinking. He hates parties. He hates sex because God is anti-happiness. You're having fun? F-U-N, first three letters of funeral, boom! Wipe you out. Because I'm only happy when you're miserable. That's what people think that God thinks. And that's crazy. Nothing could be further from the truth. God is not anti-pleasure. Not at all. The gospel is about maximizing your pleasure. It's about maximizing your happiness in God. And through Jesus Christ, we have the life and the joy of God, who gives us the only pleasure and happiness that will never leave us empty. That is what the hope of the gospel is. Not that you can get saved and be miserable, but rather that you will enter into the life of God. And the life of God is joy and pleasure and happiness because He is the one who invented it. It is Him. It is who He is. Psalm chapter 16, verse 11. Listen to this. You make known to me, this is a prayer. So it says, you make known to me the path of life. And in your presence, there's what? Fullness of joy. I'm so glad that word fullness is there. He's not just saying in your presence there is joy. There's a little bit. You look around, under the rug, under a rock or something behind a table. There's some joy back there. No. In your presence, there is fullness of joy. Here's another one. Psalm 37:4. Delight yourself in the Lord. So it's a command. He's telling you, delight yourself in the Lord. I command you to do it. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. So the first one says, God doesn't just want you to enjoy pleasure. He wants to fill you up with it. And at His right hand are pleasures forevermore, meaning that He'll fill you with it and it'll never end. It's eternal. It's an eternal pleasure that He offers to us. Now, Solomon, he gives us the flip side of that. Verse 25, he says, apart from Him, so if you're not entering into the pleasure of God, if you're not receiving it from Him, apart from Him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment? Meaning that all true pleasure comes from God. He's the one that gives it. So don't mishear what Solomon is saying. He is not saying don't drink, don't have a career, don't have a relationship, don't make money, don't enjoy yourself. That's not at all his message. His message is seek first the God of pleasure. Seek God in your pleasure and then receive all the pleasure that you receive as a gift from Him. He's the one that's given it to you. And this is where we get really mixed up. We run into problems because the pleasure seeking, which is not bad, but the pleasure seeking gets distorted by sin, and so we pursue it apart from God, and that's what Solomon is warning us against. God is the source of pleasure. That's the only place where we're going to find it, truly. And so whenever we pursue pleasure apart from Him, we value the gift above the giver. We make an idol out of it. So here's the thing. Whatever it is that you look to give you lasting pleasure and happiness, that's your God. Whatever it is that's on your list. If I just had this, I'll be happy. If I could get this house in this neighborhood at that price, in that school district. What else is there? We'll be happy then. If I could have that job, if I could go out with that girl, if I could make this much money, whatever it is that's in your mind, thinking, if I just had this, I'll be happy. If you think that acquiring it will truly make you happy, then you've turned that thing into a god and are demanding something out of it that it can never supply. It's not wrong to seek pleasure. It's wrong to trust the wrong God to provide it. Because when you get it, you'll be like, this vanity, this thing that I thought would deliver the ultimate didn't deliver. And at night and laying here in bed, and I'm no happier than I was before I got it. Pascal, he really studied this, and he wrote some very famous and beautiful things about it. I'll read you a quote. Hundreds of years ago, he said, "All men seek happiness. This is without exception. All men seek happiness without exception. Whatever different means they employ, they all tend to this end. The cause of some going to war and of others avoiding it is the same desire in both, attended with different views. They will never take the least step but to this object. This is the motive of every action of every man, even of those who hang themselves." Whatever we do it because we think it's what will make us happy. Now imagine the thrill of a new mom who is holding her baby for the very first time. And she's staring at this child, and she's in love and delighted in this child, and she's thinking like she's got all these dreams of raising this child and caring for the child and all the memories that they will make together as a family. She's so happy to finally meet this baby and to hold the child, and that's good. That's wonderful. Yes, that's a very good and beautiful thing, and she is right to enjoy it. But if she expects motherhood to give her lasting happiness and lasting joy, then that child will become God. She'll demand something of that child that the child can't provide. And so if her personal identity gets wrapped up in the child's happiness and a particular outcome of that child's life, she will turn that child into a monster. You see this happening with the mothers who want to live their adolescence again through their teenage daughters. They want to, that's the fountain of youth. I want to go back and have the adolescence. I want to relive the adolescence I had or live the one I didn't have and wished I had through the daughter. And if she needs that, then the mom can't discipline the child. Mom can't correct the daughter or do something that might make the daughter angry because she's needing the daughter's approval. And the daughter now has the position of power and control, and the daughter is able to dictate terms of the relationship, and it can turn ugly. The mom needs the child's approval in order to be happy. And so I've seen this happen where you see this mother, I'm like, what are you thinking? What are you doing? You're not 15 anymore. But if the mother enjoys the child as a gift of God, like this child is given to me by God, and I'm enjoying this baby, I'm enjoying this child, and I'm enjoying the child as something that God has given to me, and that's a legitimate pleasure, and I'm enjoying the pleasure of the God who gave it to me. Then she will be anchored in something that is secure and eternal. The God of her pleasure is the true God. But if she doesn't, then this child will have a godlike power over her. And if the child doesn't turn out the way she wants, if the child does not follow the course that the mother wants, then let's say it just goes terribly and the child let's say they have a dysfunctional relationship and it doesn't all go the way the mother envisioned when the baby was a baby. I mean, it'll be crushing, right? I mean, she'll say, this is vanity. I gave so much. I sacrificed so much. I devoted so much. And I'm like, well, yeah, you were doing those things. You were devoted to the child, but not for the child's benefit, but you're doing it for your own because you were serving your God and you made that child into a God. You'll see it's vanity. It's pointless. I don't know why I did anything, and it's heartbreaking. Well, it's September, and that can only mean one thing, and that is it's time for Apple to unveil their new iPhone. iPhone X. They skipped, I guess they skipped a few. I got an iPhone 7 a year ago, and now we're an iPhone X. So is that 10? I guess I guess there is an 8, but we skipped 9, so there's no 9. Well, we skipped 1, but maybe we skipped 8 too. I don't know. So, but anyway, we've got this thing that has been unveiled, and I mean, I got an iPhone 7 Plus. I got the upgrade last year, and it's great. Works great, not a problem. Very happy with it. It's fast, And so I started, hearing about in the news, like, the new iPhone's out. I'm like, yeah, I'll check the specs. Why not? What did they come up with this year? Screen edge to edge. No home button. Okay, they're getting kind of interesting here. You can unlock your phone with your face. I don't know if I like that, but that's what they say it'll do. And seeing all these new features kind of like I don't know, my iPhone 7 Plus is I don't know if I'm all that excited about it anymore. And so it's like you watch the little promos or whatever, and you got these smiling, happy people, and they're like playing with their phone and dancing with their phone and cuddling with their phone, whatever. And it's like they all seem so happy. This phone has given them this experience of transcendence and joy. Did you know that Apple has a design team, an entire design team that's devoted to packaging? Seriously. They're devoted to packaging because what they want to maximize the thrill of unboxing their product. And so it's like you get this little white box, and you take it off, and it's like, this aura, angels are kind of floating out, and then you start to, take the thing out, and it's this shiny, metallic, happy, technological breakthrough. It's just like, it's designed to elicit that response from people. And you admit it, it's fun. I mean, it is fun to do that. It's fun to watch the FedEx driver coming up the street and knowing they're going to drop this little box of happiness on your porch. It's like, FedEx, is that for me? Are you here for me? I've been waiting on this, And of course, you're kind of stonewalling it. You're like, business package I'll sign here. Yeah, that's for work. And you get inside, you're like, I can't wait. Apple, they've mastered this, of creating this desire within us and this promise that it will finally deliver this euphoric experience. So, if that's good, let's get a new iPhone every day. Let's say every day you got a new upgrade in the mail. FedEx, boom, another one. It's fun, it's exciting. All right, another day, FedEx, boom, upgrade. This is the newer one. And then the next day, a newer one. And then the next day, a newer one. And then the next day, a newer one. It's like, eventually, it gets a little old, right? It's like you can't handle that much until it just gets boring. And then you start being like me, where you're pining for the old days when a mobile phone was the receiver with a 70-foot-long coily cord attached to the base. And it's like you're like on the phone, say, hold on, my mom's here. Let me just go over here. Yep, I'm out in the backyard now. Yeah, I'm over by the neighbor's house. And you're still just like this long cord that's following you the whole time, and you're sneaking up. It's like, that's what I did as a kid. And you start thinking, maybe retro phone. Maybe that's what's cool. Let's recycle the old and let that be cool again. Dumb phones, that's the new smartphone, whatever. We convince ourselves that there is some experience out there, and we'll believe it when it's sold to us well. If it's packaged right, we'll believe it. Do you realize this, that you are an eternal creature, and that you have been created in the image of an eternal God who has designed you for eternal pleasure? Do you know that about yourself? All of us, we're all eternal souls. We go on forever, and we have this capacity for pleasure. It's like an infinite abyss. It's a black hole. And you can only fill it with something infinite. It's this chasm, our capacity to experience pleasure. It's like, take dump trucks full of new iPhones and gadgets and experiences and sex and money and career and all of these different things you could put in there, and it just drops. Because our capacity for pleasure is infinite, and it will only be satisfied by something infinite, and nothing in this world under the sun will fill it. Only God will. That's why we have addictions. We're pleasure junkies. We have an unlimited capacity to enjoy. And nothing can quench that insatiable thirst. Only God can. C.S. Lewis, he said it this way. He said, if we find ourselves with a desire that nothing in this world will satisfy, the most probable explanation is that we were made for another world. It's the bad news and the good news. The bad news is all the things that you're looking for to satisfy it won't. The good news is there's something that will. In John chapter 4, Jesus had this encounter with a woman at a well. You may be familiar with this story. So he's alone, she's alone, and they're hanging out at a time of day when, all of the respectable women in town, they've already gathered their water early in the day. But they're there in the heat of the day, and so she's alone because she's not a respectable woman. She's got a past. And she's there to draw water, and Jesus happens to be there. And so out of nowhere, Jesus, breaks the silence, and he says, give me a drink. She's caught off guard a little, but she's intrigued. So, she interacts with him a little bit, and Jesus goes on to say, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, give me a drink, you would be asking him. And he would have given to you living water. He's telling her, I can quench your thirst. I can quench the thirst of your soul. Well, she didn't get it, right? I mean, she's thinking about regular water. She said, well, you don't have a bucket. I don't see a pail. Where's your water? Give me some. And he's like, no, you don't understand. Everybody who drinks of this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again. But whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again. That water become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life. And so she's like, okay, I get it. I want that. I want you to satisfy my soul thirst. Give me that living water. Jesus knew he's got her cornered now. And so he said, okay, great. I got some here for you. Go call your husband, bring him here, and we'll have a chat. And she's like, see, there's a thing. I don't really have a husband right now. Kind of, between husbands sort of at the moment. But, and of course, Jesus says, bingo. I mean, he didn't literally say bingo, but Jesus said, now we're getting somewhere. He's saying, you're right in saying, I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands. And the one you have now is not your husband. He puts his finger on the wound. What he's saying is that you long to know the happiness of an eternal love, and you think you'll find it in mortal men. 5, to be precise. And there's no man on this earth that can meet that standard. There's no man on this earth that can fulfill that desire because you were made for another world. Apart from God, all of the happiness that we will ever know under the sun, apart from God, all the pleasure and happiness that we will experience, it all adds up to a fistful of smoke. It doesn't last, and then we die. The satisfaction our hearts desire is found only in Christ. Jesus is the life of God. Jesus opens up to us. He is our access. He is our entry point, the destination. He is everything in between. It is all about Christ, and we come to him by faith. And we say, I want to drink of that. I want to be satisfied that way, with an alien satisfaction that I'm not going to find here. It's got to come from something not of this world. And Jesus says, I can do that. you'll never thirst again. In my presence is fullness of joy. At my right hand are pleasures forevermore. It'll fill you up, and it'll last. It will always increase. So Solomon's lesson from all of his experiment is that true pleasure comes from God. And whatever pleasure we experience in this life, ultimately, he's the source of it. He's the giver of it. And so we receive it as a gift. Now, receiving it as a gift doesn't make the vanity of life go away. Receiving it as a gift can make the vanity enjoyable. So the lesson is very simply this: enjoy your life. That's not wrong. It's not wrong to enjoy your life. Treasure the moments. Enjoy what you can. Have fun. Life in God's world is a gift. It's not gain. Don't think that you can bottle it up and keep it and keep experiencing it, because it doesn't. The pleasures that you experience in life are real pleasures that you're pouring into a bottomless pit. So you can enjoy it, but don't trust it for anything beyond what it can give you. Only God can satisfy you. Have a nice meal with friends. Go out to dinner. Good conversation. Go to a ball game. Go to a Bengals game. Enjoy that. Gripe about the offensive line. Fire the offensive coordinator. If you're not into crowds, well, go take a walk by yourself in a park. Sit under a tree. Read a book. Enjoy your life. It's good. That's not wrong. If you're in school, make the most of it. Make some new friends. Study hard. Rock your education. Get it done. Do it to the glory of God. That's a good thing. And then when you get a job, give it your all. Devote yourself to it. Work hard. Make some money. Make big piles of cash. Give it away. Be generous, because it's all you're going to die and leave it to idiots anyway, so give it away while you still have some control over the thing. Enjoy life. If you're married, if you get married, enjoy your spouse. Have fun. Have sex. That's not bad. Make lots of babies. Take 1,000 pictures that you'll never look at. This is good. Enjoy it. God, this is a gift. I want to treasure this moment. I want to savor it. If God gives you these things, wonderful. Enjoy them. Every single blessing that ever comes your way is a gift. Receive it with a happy and thankful heart. Thank you. This is good. Walk outside and enjoy a beautiful day. I went out for dinner with some friends last night, and the weather was perfect. And we sat outside and we talked for hours and hours. And I was like, this is glorious. This is a simple pleasure. Enjoy it. And if God takes those pleasures away, it's okay to mourn it. Grieve it. Grieve the loss. That's fine. And then laugh at the vanity of it all, because you didn't deserve it to begin with. And you know that a lasting pleasure is coming your way. So if it's gone, like, well, that was nice while it lasted. But I know I'm destined for a pleasure that doesn't run out and is never less than full. So in every pleasure, don't you dare forget that. All true pleasures are gifts of God. And remember that God is more satisfying and thrilling and unpredictable and beautiful than anything you will ever encounter on this earth. And whatever pleasures, true pleasures you experience on this earth are dim echoes and reverberations of the God who is the source of pleasure and gives it to you. And then remember this too. God's end game is not merely saving you. God won't stop at merely saving you. God will spend all eternity delighting you and thrilling you and satisfying you with the fullness of joy and pleasures forevermore. With pleasure that we cannot even begin to imagine. Let's pray. Our Father and our God, you are the source of pleasure and joy, and you created us to experience happiness, the happiness that comes from being connected to the fountain of joy. And so I pray, Father, that all of us here will know that. And we know it through Jesus Christ, who was deprived of pleasure and deprived of joy when he went to the cross and suffered for our sake, that we might know the pleasure of the resurrection and the life that doesn't ever end. Help us to cling to that hope. Help us to see that through the vanity that we experience. Prepare our hearts for that. And I pray this morning as we come to the table that it will not just be a feast of forgiveness, which it is, a feast of salvation, which it is, but it will be a celebration of joy and pleasure and delight that we have because of this sacrifice. We're celebrating that too. Thank you. We pray in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you for listening to the Christ the King Church podcast. For more information about our church, please visit us online at ctkcincy.com or download our mobile app.